Welcome to the 33rd Annual Mayor's Environment Expo. As we come together from around the city, I would like to acknowledge that the Calgary area, where the Bow and Elbow Rivers meet, is a place of confluence, where the sharing of ideas and opportunities naturally come together. Indigenous people were the original caretakers of this land and the first champions of environmental conservation. This land is a home that we all share, and it's vitally important that we protect our home, our environment, by working together. What drives my optimism is seeing the innovation and commitment to climate action from all of you, our students. I will continue to amplify youth voices on the climate crisis, and I look forward to hearing your ideas. I hope this session sparks conversations and encourages all of us to take greater action in protecting our environment. Thank you all for participating.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Vanessa, and I'm going to be your CPAWS educator today for our Go Go Water Rangers. I'm really excited today to be here with you on behalf of Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, or CPAWS, because we at CPAWS love to talk about nature, whether that be water, air, land, animals, anything, because CPAWS is a voice with nature. You may think that we're kind of like the Lorax. Many of you may have read the book The Lorax or seen the movie The Lorax, and you may know that the Lorax is a small little creature that speaks for the trees. And CPAWS speaks for not just the trees, but the air and the land and the water and the animals that live here in Canada. Because while these things in nature do have a voice for themselves and can tell us when they are happy and when they are unhappy and unhealthy, sometimes we have a hard time listening to them. And so that's why CPAWS is in Canada, to help speak with nature and to amplify or make louder nature's voice so that nature can be happy and healthy for this generation and for generations to come. And one thing we love talking about, because it's one of nature's greatest gifts, is water. Water is an amazing resource that we all have and love and is a part of each and every one of our daily lives. So today we're going to be learning about why water is so great, things that might be causing our water to be unhealthy, and all the little actions that you guys can do to be water rangers and protect this amazing resource. Throughout today's presentation, we are going to be using the Q&A. So right now, I want you guys to move over to the Q&A, and I want you to introduce yourself. I've just introduced myself. Hello again, my name's Vanessa. I would love to hear from all of you who are in your classroom or maybe at home and hear maybe what grade you're in, say hello and say what you're excited to learn about today. I'd love to share all of your answers in the Q&A. So please input those now. While I wait for them, if you do by any chance have some of the items that we have on our board right now, that's awesome. That means that you guys can follow along with our demonstration. However, if you don't have these, have no fear, because Vanessa is here and I have all of these materials with me today so that we can all together participate in our Bow River water demonstration, which will be very, very, very fun. Again, if you have time, please open into the Q&A and input a hello to say hi to me. If not, that's totally fine, but we are going to be using the Q&A throughout today's presentation, so I want you guys to get really, really familiar with it and feel comfortable using it. Did you all know that the planet we live on is Earth? Yes, you probably did. But Earth actually also has another name, a nickname, the blue planet. The reason that we are nicknamed the blue planet is obvious. It's because there's so much water on Earth. But if we have so much water, then why should we be worried about if some of it is polluted? Why should we be thinking about protecting our water if we have so much of it? That's a really good question. Did you guys know that there are actually two types of water on Earth? There's salt water and fresh water. In the Q&A, I would love you guys to take a guess as to how much of all the water in the world is fresh water. I can also see that we have some amazing people from Valley View. Ooh, 50 grade 4 and 5 students are here today, as well as Mr. Freeman's grade 5 class. Hey guys, thank you for saying hello. Really excited to have you all with us today. I hope you guys can make a guess as to how much of all the water in the world is fresh. While I wait for your answers to come in, why do you think I asked about fresh water instead of salt? Well, fresh water is very important to our daily lives. First, people cannot drink salt water, and our body relies on fresh water to survive. While we can turn salt water into fresh water through a process called desalinization, it's pretty expensive and not very practical. If we need to supply fresh water to all the people in the world, we need to make sure that this fresh water is clean and clear. We have a guess that says 50% of all the water in the world is fresh. That's a really, really great guess. 75%, 10 to 20%, 10%. These are really great guesses. And you would all be very surprised to learn that approximately only 3% of the water in the world is fresh. That leaves 97% to be salt. Oof. There is definitely not as much fresh water in the world as I had previously thought. But we still have 3% to use for drinking water, right? Do we? We might not. I want you guys to true or false. I'm going to put the question in the chat right now. True or false, is all the fresh water we have on Earth easily available for us to use? This is a little bit of a trick question, and I'm going to give you a hint right now while I wait for people's responses. Water has 3 different forms. It can be found in liquid form, solid, or vapor air. When water is below 0 degrees Celsius, it turns into a solid known as ice. We use freshwater ice all the time in our ice cubes to skate on. Snow is also considered a solid form of water that we use to toboggan and build snow forts. But what happens when water goes over 100 degrees Celsius? It starts to boil and turn into air or water vapor. Water vapor is around us all the time in the air. We just can't see it. When we have a lot of water vapor in a small area, like when we take showers or boil water in a kettle, we can see the water vapor as steam. Now let's go back to the Q&A and see what we all thought about the true and false question. So we have false. Our class thinks that most of the water is not available for us to drink. These are really good answers, and you guys would be correct if you thought false, because 70% of all fresh water is trapped in solid form or in glaciers. Now, if we do some simple math, 100 minus 70, that leaves us with 30% that we can use. Not quite, because we can't easily use all of it. 29.7% is underground in lakes and rivers and in rocks. We can drill for some of that water, but a lot of underground water or aquifers are unmapped and we don't know where they all are. That leaves us in the end with less than 1% of fresh water. 0.3% is left for us to use in our lakes and rivers and wetlands. What does that tell us about our water? Maybe we don't have as much endless water to use as we may have thought. We may have thought that fresh water was endless because it's such an important part of our daily lives. In the Q&A, I would love you guys to give me examples of why do you love water and why do you think it's important? In the next minute, while I wait for your answers, I'm going to give you some examples of how I use water, and maybe that will inspire you to give me examples of how you use water. But before I do that, we have a question from Valley View. One of the students is wondering if you can boil salt water and then drink it. I believe that there is a process that you can, like a special way to boil it. So you boil out the water and then the salt is left behind. That is a really great follow-up I wonder question that you might be able to learn after today's presentation to learn exactly how you could do that. Some examples of how I love to use water are through things like drinking. Obviously, I love to drink water. It's very good for you. Gardening is a great example. I love to grow my own vegetables in my backyard and on my balcony. It's really fun. It also helps me save money because then I don't have to go to the grocery store and buy these vegetables and fruits. Washing my hands, we are all very familiar with why washing our hands is important after the past 2 years. And also fun. Going canoeing, kayaking, swimming are some of my favorite activities, especially now that it is so hot in June. Now we have some people say, because it's vital to live, humans need water to stay alive because it's not just us who uses it. That's a really great answer to why water is super important. Thank you so much, CBE Learn Freeman. That's a really great answer. Yes, we use water for a lot of different things, and water is important because it's not just for us, but everyone. Valley View School says it keeps you hydrated. It's healthy for you. And it keeps our planet healthy. Excellent. I love those answers. Thank you, Valley View. Now, we know how much fresh water we have, and we know why it's important and how we use it. But where does it come from? Most of the water in Calgary that we use comes from the Bow River, but there's other people in the city, like in the south, that use water from the Elbow. Right now, we're going to talk about the Bow River. Where does it start? Well, if some of you have gone to the mountains, you may have visited where the Bow River starts. It starts at the Bow Glacier. It then flows into Bow Glacier Falls, that moves into a lake, and finally into the Bow River. The glacier itself only provides about 1% of the water that's in our river. The rest is from precipitation, like rain and snow. This makes up 90% of where all the water in Calgary comes from. But the river doesn't stop in Calgary, obviously. It actually flows all across Canada. The Bow River Basin, or watershed, starts in the mountain region of Alberta, flows through Banff, Canmore, Cochrane, and Calgary until it's joined with a bunch of other rivers. The water then flows through Saskatchewan and Manitoba until it finally ends up in the Hudson's Bay and then finally the ocean. This means that the water they use in Banff is the same water we use in Calgary. Maybe some of the water we are drinking today in our water bottles was actually flushed down the toilets in Banff. Yeah, that sounds really yucky, but I mean, at least we are close to where our river starts, and the water in our glasses has only probably been flushed down maybe 2 or 3 toilets. But can you imagine if we lived in Manitoba? There's millions of people that use this water between the mountains and Manitoba. Can you imagine how many toilets have flushed down the water in Manitoba? A lot. Which sounds really gross, but it's not, because we have high-tech equipment in our water and wastewater treatment plants. This means that all the water coming into our buildings and out of our buildings is cleaned. While the people in our cities and towns are really lucky to have these water cleaning systems to take out all the bad bugs and bacteria that can live in the water, our nature neighbors, the animals and plants, do not have this luxury. Because of some of the things people are doing on the land, in our waters, in our lakes, and our streams, these waterways are becoming a little unhealthy. Because of this, some of our nature neighbors have a few things that they would like to tell us. For this next part of the program, we are going to be interviewing different nature neighbors to hear why they are upset with things happening in our rivers, lakes, and wetlands, and what things we can potentially do to help. As we talk to each animal, we will be able to understand just how dirty our waters can get when we aren't paying attention to how we treat it and the land around it. So take the next minute. If you have the supplies, great. That's awesome. Get it ready. If not, have no fear. I have all the equipment with me as well, and I'm going to be doing our demonstration today and showing you each step along the way as we go. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to throw them in the Q&A. I am very happy to talk about them or to address any questions that I can. So again, we have a lot of different things like oil. I have some soap, different food coloring. I have salt with me, some dirt, and rocks, and a container, a glass container for us, and some water. That's all we need for today. Pretty easy peasy. Let's see who our first nature neighbor we are going to interview is. Ba-dum-ba-dum. A beaver. The first nature neighbor we are going to be interviewing is my friend P. Diddy Beaver. He is one of my favorite animals, and he has written a very awesome rap song for you. And what he's saying is telling us some things that's happening. So as we listen really hard, and then I want you guys in the Q&A to maybe summarize and tell me what P. Diddy Beaver is telling us in his rap. So without further ado, let's see.
Lil Lil Beaver here. I got a fly message for y'all. Check it. Yo, I be living near the bow. I'ma spread the word about some things I think that y'all should know. I'm a beaver, so I do as I please. I use my teeth to gnaw down trees, using all this wood to dam up the springs, to make my crazy ill pond and do my things. I need to have the water to keep my pond tight, so them wolves and predators don't come around all night. I be talking about water, son. Springs is drying, getting less. If we don't have that water, then our habitat's a mess. You hear what I'm saying? There is less flow. My family and I might have to pack and go. Caring and respecting? Can you do either? Please keep me busy. Save some water for the beaver.
Now that was pretty good. I'm going to wait a few seconds and then I'm going to play it again for you, just in case you missed it the first time. So if you feel good, you can mute, but in the next 10 seconds, I'm going to play him again, just in case someone missed something important.
Lil Beaver here. I got a fly message for y'all. Check it. Yo, I be living near the bow. I'ma spread the word about some things I think that y'all should know. I'm a beaver, so I do as I please. I use my teeth to gnaw down trees, using all this wood to dam up the springs, to make my crazy ill pond and do my things. I need to have the water to keep my pond tight, so them wolves and predators don't come around all night. I be talking about water, son. Springs is drying, getting less. If we don't have that water, then our habitat's a mess. You hear what I'm saying? There is less flow. My family and I might have to pack and go. Caring and respecting? Can you do either? Please keep me busy. Save some water for the beaver.
All right, I have some people. He's talking about building a dam, needing water for predator protection, living near the bow, uses teeth to dam up the springs. He needs water and shelter so predators don't come in. What he's saying is he wants water for the beavers. Needing enough water to survive. These are all really great answers and a really good summary of what he is saying. So there is a lot of water being used and a lot of water being used in Calgary every day. We're already talked about ways that we use water. This means that the water level, so all the water we use in Calgary, this means that we have to get it from somewhere, right? We get it from our rivers. This means that the more water we use, the more the Bow River goes down potentially. And the more people that move to Calgary, Calgary is always getting bigger. That could potentially be a huge stress on our river systems. So we want to make sure that we are being water wise every single day. In our Bow River, which is going to be this jar, instead of filling it up all the way, like I should if our river was full, I am only going to be filling it up part way. That represents all the water we are using in the city and outside of the city, taking water away from animals like the beavers, etc. So, instead of filling it up all the way, maybe I'll give it a little bit more. I'm being generous today. We're only putting it up part of the way. But why are we using all this water? How are we using it? Well, we talked about ways we do it in our homes, but there are a lot of things outside of our homes that use water from the river, like irrigation. Calgary is surrounded by farms, and those farms are really important because they provide us with food, but they need water to be able to grow that food. And a lot of times it's too hot and there's not enough rain to do it naturally, so they have to do it through irrigation. In the winter time, it's not winter anymore, woohoo, but things like areas like Winsport, Sunshine Village, and Lake Louise, when they don't get enough snow, they have to make their own snow. And where do they get that? The Bow River. They get that snow from turning the water in the Bow River into snow. Oil and gas also uses a lot of fresh water to get oil out of the ground. And last but not least, something very important called climate change. As a result of changing climates, we're expecting to see a lot less snow in the mountains than we used to see. As a result of this, a lot of water that used to melt and go into the river may no longer be there, and the amount of water in our river will also decrease. But there's a lot of things we can do. We can use reusable water bottles because every plastic bottle created, for every plastic water bottle created, there was water wasted to get that plastic and create it. When we have a lawn or a garden, we can water it before the sun comes up and after the sun comes down, or at dawn and dusk. Because when we do it in the middle of the day, a lot of that water evaporates and is wasted. And we can reduce our impact on climate change by walking or biking, carpooling, or taking a bus to school. A lot of things that we're already doing, which is super, super great. Now I see I have a question. What is the longest river in Canada? That is a really great question, and I'm going to potentially answer that a little bit later in today's program as we go along. But first, I want us to go to our next Nature Neighbor interview with my friend Wally the Whooping Crane. Wally the Whooping Crane probably has something important to say as well. So I'm going to play him twice, and I want you guys to give me a summary in the Q&A. Turn it up. Here we go.
Howdy, y'all. Wally the Whooping Crane here. I'm just hanging out along the Gulf of Mexico. After all, it is winter. Yeehaw! This is the 5th winter that I've made the long migration from northern Alberta to Texas, and every year the journey gets more difficult. My family and I need wetlands as stopover points along the way. These are familiar areas that are a safe place to rest and find food. I sure like my grub. But over the years, there are fewer and fewer wetlands along the way, and less of my family can endure the long migration. Bye, y'all. I've got to mosey.
All right, it sounds like Wally is from Texas. He kind of has that like Texas drawl. So I'm going to give you 5 seconds, and then we're going to move on and play it again.
Howdy, y'all. Wally the Whooping Crane here. I'm just hanging out along the Gulf of Mexico. After all, it is winter. Yeehaw! This is the 5th winter that I've made the long migration from northern Alberta to Texas, and every year the journey gets more difficult. My family and I need wetlands as stopover points along the way. These are familiar areas that are a safe place to rest and find food. I sure like my grub. But over the years, there are fewer and fewer wetlands along the way, and less of my family can endure the long migration. Bye, y'all. I've got to mosey.
All right, so while you guys type what you heard in, Wally mentioned wetlands specifically, and some of us may be learning about wetlands in class and have learned that wetlands are superheroes of our water. Not only do they give homes to many animals, but they also serve as a grocery store for animals and plants to find food. Wetlands help prevent flooding by holding huge amounts of water. They also take pollution and dirty things out of the water through the plant roots as well as through the sediment at the bottom of the ponds. This all helps to keep our rivers, streams, and lakes clean and clear. Many animals like Wally depend on wetlands as places to live. Let's see if you also caught on to this in his interview and check the Q&A. So we see there is less wetlands and he needs them. He needs more wetlands because the wetlands are polluted. That's really, really great. I wonder if anyone else has anything they would like to add to summarize what Wally said. Also, we had someone ask, what is the longest river in Canada? I didn't know this, so I actually just looked it up, and it is the Mackenzie River. Super, super cool. Valley View said, he said over the year he needs wetlands to take rests, but over time there's less and less wetlands because humans are building over them. Thank you, Aiden from Valley View. That was really, really great. I'm glad you guys caught on to what he was saying. So we learned that destroying wetlands destroys many animals' homes, but also takes out this super important filtration system that keeps our water in the Bow River and the Elbow clean and clear. So unfortunately, because Calgary has lost approximately over 90% of the wetlands in our city, we have to add the following ingredients to our river. We have to add some motor oil. I just have some olive oil here and I'm going to add some into the pot. Ooh. We're going to add our cow poop. I have some rocks instead of peppercorns because I ran out of those. That makes a nice sound. We're also going to add some food coloring to represent different fertilizers that may be running off our lawns into the river or from farms that no longer have wetlands to help prevent these fertilizers from getting in the river. Now I'm going to shake this up. And let's see what everything looks like now. Ooh, not the best. Ooh. It's gotten a little green. It looks like it has algae growing in it. But why have all the wetlands been disappearing? That's a really important question that we need to ask. So you can put some ideas in the Q&A if you would like. I'm going to give you a few examples of my own. One is human activity, so development, building houses, building roads, building shopping malls. These are all examples of ways that we use the land or build on top of the land that might take some wetlands out. Also farming. Farmers use the land in many different ways to raise cattle and also to plant crops for their livelihood. And sometimes wetlands get in the way of this, and so they fill them in to be able to plant crops or use it for cows. And that's understandable, but wetlands can provide those farmers with a lot of important things that they may not know about. And last but not least is climate change. So as a result of warmer weather and less rain and snow, our wetlands are not getting as much water to charge them up and fill them up, and some of that water is evaporating. So wetlands are starting to shrink or get smaller and even dry up at times. These are some examples of how we're losing wetlands. But how can we help protect them? Well, one really great thing that CPAWS loves to do as Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society is create parks, provincial parks, national parks, city parks. A great example is Fish Creek Park here in Calgary. Fish Creek Park has helped protect a lot of wetlands that could potentially have been destroyed if not within a provincial park. The City of Calgary also has a really great bylaw that says if you're building in an area, you need to make sure that the amount of wetlands that were on that land before you started building are there at the end of your building project. So for instance, when new communities are built, all of them will have stormwater ponds in them. And many of the communities that you guys are from may also have these stormwater ponds or wetlands close by. We can reduce our impact on the environment by turning down the heat in our house, especially now that it's getting warmer. Woohoo! We can definitely turn down the heat or even turn off the furnace. That would be great. All right, on to our third nature neighbor, Rita the leopard frog. Let's listen to see what Rita has to say. And in the Q&A, if you want to summarize, feel free.
You know, I'm the sensitive type. Some say I should just toughen up, but I can't help it. It's my skin. It's permeable. This means things just pass through it. I don't need to actively drink or breathe because water and air just absorb through my skin. But this also means that everything else does too. Let me tell you, this past summer I felt pretty sick, and some of my family members and neighboring frogs are no longer around. A little bird told me some toxins like road salts, gasoline, paints, and especially soaps from people washing their cars have run off into the river. I don't know if this is true, or if it's the cause of what's making me and my family sick. All I know is I don't want to croak. Well, you know what I mean.
Oh, Rita sounds really sad. Now again, I'm going to give you one more chance to listen to really hear what she's saying in the next 5 seconds.
You know, I'm the sensitive type. Some say I should just toughen up, but I can't help it. It's my skin. It's permeable. This means things just pass through it. I don't need to actively drink or breathe because water and air just absorb through my skin. But this also means that everything else does too. Let me tell you, this past summer I felt pretty sick, and some of my family members and neighboring frogs are no longer around. A little bird told me some toxins like road salts, gasoline, paints, and especially soaps from people washing their cars have run off into the river. I don't know if this is true or if it's the cause of what's making me and my family sick. All I know is I don't want to croak. Well, you know what I mean.
Poor Rita. Doesn't sound very good. Well, we heard from her that because of things other than water washing down our storm drains, we have to add a few things into our river. First, we're going to add some soap. So I'm going to have some dish soap here. I'm going to add a few drops. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. Windshield washer fluid. So I'm going to add some food coloring. Boop, boop. We also have paint. So I'm going to add a different color. Boop, boop. And then we have some salt, like the salt on our roadways. A little pinch of salt. And that, I'm going to shake it up. Shake it up. Shake it up. Ooh. Whoa, look at how crazy our river is looking now. Ooh. We have some people saying that Rita said the water is getting polluted and her skin absorbs everything. So the frogs are getting sick. Valley View says that Rita's family is getting sick, but she has sensitive skin. Cameron, gasoline, soap, and other things are making the wetlands polluted. That's what Kelvin said. Really great. Thank you both. And now we can see exactly how ugly the water, or maybe the wetland, is looking with all of these extra pollutants in it. But how do they get in there? This. Many of you see this. You walk past it, bike past it every day. It is a storm drain. Now, a storm drain is not a sewer, so anything that flushes down your toilet does not go in there. This is to prevent our streets from flooding with water when it rains and when the snow melts. The only thing that should go down here is water. Unfortunately, though, many things like road salt from the winter, paint from people who don't know where the paint goes or is supposed to go, and soap from people who are washing their cars in their driveway or in the street get down there. Now, there are many things that we can do to prevent this from happening, like taking our car to the car wash. Did you guys know that the city of Calgary actually has bylaws against our friends and family from washing their cars in the driveway? Even if you don't use soap, there's lots of dirt and oil and gas and grime that washes down the storm drain, but will go right to Rita, and we don't want that. So take a couple bucks, go to the car wash, have a good time, because all that water gets filtered out before it goes to the river. As well, paint. A lot of you probably learned about waste, and certain types of waste can't go in the garbage. It can't go down our sinks. It has to go to the hazardous waste facilities at many fire stations around town. And last but not least, if you have some chores you can do or some extra money, maybe you want to make it home, you can always sweep up the dirt, sweep up the rocks and the salt in the springtime and throughout the summer and put them somewhere else so they don't go down the storm drain. This will save us and Rita a whole lot of heartache. Now we have our last nature neighbor, my good friend, Bernardo, the bull trout. And funny fact, some of you may not know, Bernardo is also our provincial fish. And by Bernardo, I mean the bull trout. And the bull trout, unfortunately, is also a species at risk. Uh-oh. Let's hear why he might be at risk.
Hola amigos, Bernardo Banderas here. Cloudy rivers are not very good for me and other trout, but that's just a bit of the dirt. Another problem is that there is just less agua in the rivers, and this water is warming up. I need cold water. It's better for my prey and makes it much easier for me to breathe. Not to mention to swim the salsa, the rhythm of my life. Hasta la vista!
Now, although he's our provincial fish, Bernardo definitely had a Spanish accent. It might have been hard to understand, so again, I'm going to play it again. If you don't need to hear it again, please mute me for the next little bit and input your summary in the Q&A.
Hola amigos, Bernardo Banderas here. Cloudy rivers are not very good for me and other trout, but that's just a bit of the dirt. Another problem is that there is just less agua in the rivers, and this water is warming up. I need cold water. It's better for my prey and makes it much easier for me to breathe. Not to mention to swim the salsa, the rhythm of my life. Hasta la vista!
Awesome. Hasta luego, Bernardo. So, what I heard Bernardo say is that there's a lot of sediment and dirt in the water, and it's getting warmer. So I can't make this warmer right now, but I can add some dirt. So I got my dirt here. I'm going to pop it in there, and I'm going to shake it up again. This kind of looks like cream soda a little bit of like cream soda and root beer. Ooh. I don't know. It sounds like it could be delicious, but it does not look very delicious right now. So I'm just going to close that so it doesn't fall everywhere. Valley View said he needs cold water to survive because it helps him breathe. Thank you so much, Jacob. That is right. You are great and right on task. Fish, especially ones in Alberta, are adapted for really cold water. So when things like climate change happen and our water gets warmer, that is bad news bears for our fish, especially those like Bernardo, who are already fighting things like dirt, who he can't see and he can't move around and he can't lay his eggs because the dirt prevents him from doing all those things. But why is our water getting dirty and warmer? Well, main thing is human activity. So things like construction can have a huge impact on the cleanliness and the clarity or how clear our water is. When we have big machines beside waterways, the water can get a lot of dirt. As well, when we have big floods like the 2013 flood and even smaller ones, that can bring a lot of dirt and a lot of nasty stuff from around the river edges into the river, making it dirtier. And also, we have people who love to go off-highway vehicling, or they love to go quadding, biking, and those activities are super fun. And unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but there are a lot of rules for people who like to go mudding and stuff like that. For instance, you're not allowed to drive through streams. You're not allowed to drive through rivers because of fish like Bernardo, because of our bull trout, because they can't have their water get really dirty and messed up, because it prevents them from living their life. And also climate change, because of flooding and heavy rainfalls, that can bring a lot of sediment into the water and also increase the temperature when we have warm, hot summers like we've had for the past few years. So what can we do? Well, we can learn a lot more about our aquatic neighbors or our water neighbors like fish to understand why they're upset and how we can help. When we have our OHVs or our quads and our dirt bikes, we can follow the rules and take the bridge instead of going through the streams. Easy peasy. We can also eat vegetarian once a week and plant trees and bushes on the riverbanks. When we eat vegetarian, we're creating less greenhouse gases, as well as when we plant more bushes on the riverbanks. It helps to prevent flooding from happening. It helps to prevent the banks from eroding and falling into the river when there are big floods. The city of Calgary is doing a really great job of planting a lot more trees and bushes on the sides of both the Bow River and the Elbow Rivers, to help prevent them from getting torn apart if there's another flood. Okay, so all this talking is making me really thirsty. Do you think I should drink the water in the Bow River that I've just created? Ooh, it smells really soapy, which I kind of like, but it doesn't look that great. It looks pretty disgusting. So I think I'm probably not going to drink it. I think that instead I should probably just go and drink the water from my tap that has gone through the wastewater treatment plant. Because this water is clean and clear. But unfortunately, for many of our nature neighbors, they don't get the water that comes out of my tap. They get the water that's in the river, which is why it's so important to do many of the little actions that we talked about today, whether it be washing your car in the car wash, or walking, biking, carpooling to school. Even making sure that you're following the rules and when you go quadding and dirt biking, not going through the streams. All of these things are really great ways that we can help our friend Bernardo, Rita, Wally, as well as P. Diddy, make them a little bit happier and healthier in our waterways, because the health of the water is in our hands. It's up to us to make sure that the water we have today will be here and clean for tomorrow, as well as for all our friends that are downstream from us. Because as we learned, the Bow and the Elbow River don't just end here. They serve millions of other people, animals, and plants all across Canada, all the way to the Hudson's Bay and the ocean. And we want to make sure that the water we are leaving in our rivers are happy and the waters are clean and clear for them. So thank you everybody for participating in today's Go Go Water Rangers presentation, and a special thanks to the City of Calgary who helped sponsor CPAWS's water programs. Without the help of the City of Calgary, we wouldn't be able to do this with you today. So a big pat on the back for the City of Calgary, who's both hosting today's event as well as sponsored our presentation. They are amazing. In the next couple minutes, we're going to have an opportunity for you guys to ask me cool questions. Anything you'd like to know about water, about today's presentation, maybe about some of the cool animals that we talked about today, like the whooping crane, the beaver, the leopard frog, and the bull trout. Type those into the Q&A and I'll definitely get to them as quickly as I can. I did see that Ananya, I apologize if I said that wrong, also mentioned that the water is hot and the water is warming up and the fish needs to be cool. Brents also mentioned that from Freeman. So thank you guys for publishing those in the Q&A. You've been really, really amazing. Valley View just asked, why are some fish so picky? Some need perfect temperature water or salt or no salt. That's a really good question. Very, very good question. It's not even just fish that are so picky. Some animals are adapted to only live in the most specific spots. And that's because over generations, millennia sometimes, these animals have developed to live in one specific spot. That is, the environment, like the temperature, the vegetation, and the animals around it, have all been the same. They've all kind of been at the same temperature, at the same level throughout these thousands of years. But due to climate change, things are changing really, really rapidly, faster than we've ever seen in Earth's history. And as a result of that, a lot of the fish aren't able to change with it because adaptations take hundreds of years, thousands of years to occur over generations. And the changes that we're asking the fish to make are happening in 1 generation or 2 or 3 or 4. And it's not quick. It's not slow enough for them. I hope that helped answer your question. Someone from Freeman asked, Stuart asked, how much energy does it take to filter water? I'm going to ask a question on you again. Are you talking about oil and gas, electricity? That's a really good question. A really great question that the city of Calgary might be able to answer at their wastewater treatment plant. I hope some of you have been able to go on a tour of their wastewater treatment facility. It is pretty snazzy, but I can try and look that up, Stuart. Someone else, Zaryab, asked, why can't we use filter straws to drink water? Well, actually, there are many filter straws that we can use to drink fresh water, but not necessarily salt water. These filter straws can be used or were created for use, I believe, overseas in lower income or at-need areas, and they're called life straws. I have one, but they're very difficult to use, and I would not recommend it for everyday use. When we go fishing, does that hurt the water or change the habitat? That's very good, Tasia. Apologize if I said that wrong. When we go fishing, it doesn't necessarily hurt the water or change the habitat, but I guess it depends on how you go fishing. If you're going fishing and you're stomping all around and you're pulling plants up and you're catching fish but then just throwing them on the shore to die, that definitely is probably hurting the habitat because you're taking a lot of fish out and disrupting a lot of stuff. But generally, fishing is pretty low impact on both the water and the habitat. Good question. What's your favorite Alberta animal that lives in the water? Jordan. I have a great answer for this. I'm excited. So CPAWS does a lot of really fun programs, and the last 2 days I've been at Fish Creek Provincial Park down in South Calgary running our Water Rangers hike program. And this is a really fun program because we actually get to go into the wetlands and we get to go dipping for all the cool bugs and animals that live in those ponds. We got to see a muskrat and a beaver, but most importantly, we got to see the elusive, the amazing giant water bug. This is a huge beetle that's about the size of my palm that has huge pincers on the top of its head. And I, in my 6 years of working for CPAWS, have only seen this twice, once in Okotoks and once on Tuesday. That is my favorite water animal. I highly recommend that you Google it. Very, very cool. What's your favorite Alberta plant that lives in the water? Ooh, that's a good question too. In the water. Out of the top of my mind, I would say probably cattails, because cattails have a lot of really interesting indigenous uses, as well as they're great filters for pollutants out of our waterways. Thank you, Brittany, for that question. What is the #1 reason the temperature is changing? Yusuf, the #1 reason that our climate is warming is because of human activities. So the reason that our climate is changing is because our Earth is surrounded by something called the atmosphere. The atmosphere is awesome. It allows sunlight to come in and it allows heat to stay, some of the heat to stay in the Earth, and then the sunlight bounces back out. The reason the heat gets to stay with the Earth to keep us alive, as well as all life on Earth alive, is because of greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, all examples of greenhouse gases that are flying around us right now, but we just cannot see. Can't see them. Now, people love to put greenhouse gases in the atmosphere by driving our cars, heating our homes, making our clothes, and, creating plastic, like these plastic bottles I have for my soap. And when all of these extra greenhouse gases go into the atmosphere, it's causing a lot of the heat from the sun to get trapped in here. More and more and more and more heat, which is causing the whole Earth to get warmer. And there's not a lot of things that can take that out now, like the ocean, forests, and wetlands are all examples of things that take out those greenhouse gases. But we're putting too much in, and there's not enough to take it out. So now we're kind of imbalanced. That is what's causing the greenhouse gas effect, which is why riding your bike, turning down your thermostat, and reusing your, having reusable water bottles are all examples of ways that we can help fight our climate crisis right now and be water rangers. Woohoo! Okay, Stuart, we have a Stuart's last minute question about how much energy does it take to filter water? I'm unsure, so I'm going to Google this. How much energy does it take to filter water? Okay, so apparently the average consumption of a filter, this is a fish tank filter, that's not going to work. But apparently, if you're looking for the amount of energy it takes to filter fish water, 7 to 8 watts per month. But I don't think that's what we want. I'm not too sure if I'll actually be able to find this answer for you very quickly today, but I invite you, Stuart, and your whole class to try and find out this answer, or even contact the City of Calgary to follow up. You can contact me at this email address, which I'm going to reply and then publish. If you want to find out more, I might be able to help you out after today's presentation. I want to say one final thank you for everyone for coming today. CPAWS is an eco-charity, which means that we're not-for-profit and we rely on the support from people like the City of Calgary, your families, and your schools by donating to us, as well as booking our programs. And maybe you guys can come on a program in the fall or maybe next year in the springtime and go looking for these amazing bugs that I was talking about before in our Water Rangers hiking program. But we teach kids all the way from K to grade 12. And I hope maybe that you guys were inspired today to come on one of our programs, donate, or just attend another presentation. So I'll take these next 2 minutes to say our final goodbye. And I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday and a really good summer. Thank you all on behalf of CPAWS. Bye-bye.